If any group in this country should be protected, it's the elderly, because they have grafted for decades and decades to build this nation to where it is today, to enjoy the privileges that you enjoy today as a Brit in this country. These aren't just some people you can just palm off because you think they're rich or because they don't deserve it.
If you've got savings in a second
home, they have built this country, they've grafted, they've raised families, they've worked jobs, they've contributed to the economy through their work, they've invested, they've made this country.
It's intergenerational fairness.
Keir Starmer said he's for the working people. They have worked all their lives, and this is how you treat them.
It's not cruel, it's just correct.
It's a disgrace.
It's not cruel, it's correct.
All right.
Breaking news today. A national crisis is unfolding that could impact millions of Britain's most vulnerable citizens. The government is in turmoil as Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces a potential rebellion within his own party over the controversial winter fuel payment cuts. Our exclusive investigation reveals shocking predictions that thousands of elderly Britons could perish this winter if this policy continues. This is not just another policy debate. This is a matter of life and death for Britain's pensioners. And the clock is ticking. Winter is coming. This is a special extended report on what might be the most consequential domestic crisis of the year. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because this situation is developing by the hour, and you need to stay informed about what could directly impact you, your parents, or your grandparents.
We're going to do things differently. We're going to tell the truth, even when they are hard truths.
Let's break down exactly what's happening. The government has implemented a radical change to winter fuel payments, a lifeline that millions of pensioners have relied on for decades to heat their homes during the coldest months of the year. Previously, all pensioners over state pension age qualified for this crucial support, between £200 and £300 annually depending on age. But in a shocking policy shift, the government has stripped this benefit from all but the poorest pensioners, implementing strict means testing that has left millions out in the cold, literally. Only those claiming pension credit now qualify. That's a massive 10 million elderly people suddenly cut off from support they've counted on year after year. We had an interview with a pensioner who clearly stated having worked all their life, paid taxes, and never claimed benefits. Yet now, they were being told they didn't deserve help to keep warm. At 78, they were suddenly expected to choose between heating and eating. The timing couldn't be worse. Energy prices remain significantly higher than pre-crisis levels. Inflation has eroded savings, and experts predict this winter could be one of the coldest in recent memory. But here's what makes this truly explosive. The government's OWN research from when they were in opposition claimed that removing winter fuel payments would lead to approximately 4,000 pensioner deaths each winter. The same politicians who cited these statistics are now implementing the very policy they once condemned. This isn't just politics as usual. This is a complete reversal that has pensioners, advocacy groups, and even members within the governing party in open revolt. The political earthquake is already being felt. In recent local elections, the government suffered what political analysts are calling bruising losses, with many directly attributing the results to voter anger over the winter fuel payment cuts. Our sources inside Westminster reveal that the Prime Minister is now desperately considering a U-turn on this policy. Options reportedly on the table include raising the means testing threshold or scrapping means testing altogether. But the damage to public trust may already be irreparable. A political analyst observed that there were unprecedented levels of anger, particularly among older voters who had traditionally been reliable supporters. The government, the analyst noted, had badly miscalculated by assuming they could push the policy through without significant backlash, and were now in crisis mode. The opposition isn't holding back either, calling this a betrayal of the most vulnerable and a death sentence for thousands. Strong words, but do they reflect reality? We'll examine the shocking evidence behind those claims in just a moment. An opposition MP stated that the government had promised to protect the vulnerable but had instead targeted the very people who built the country, the parents and grandparents, while allowing billions in tax avoidance to go unchecked. The MP added that this was not only cruel but also economically nonsensical. Perhaps most damaging for the Prime Minister is the growing rebellion within his own party. We can exclusively reveal that at least 37 government MPs have now privately expressed serious concerns about the policy, with several preparing to vote against the government if changes aren't made immediately. The Treasury is scrambling to find the £1.4 billion needed to restore the benefit. But with the Chancellor insisting on fiscal discipline, something will have to give. The question is, what? Before we reveal the shocking personal stories of those affected and the potential death toll this winter, let me remind you to hit that subscribe button and share this video. This information could literally save lives this winter. Beyond the political calculations and financial figures lies the real story, the human impact of this policy decision.
The winter fuel allowance policy, have you been affected, first of all?
Oh, yes, I've been affected. I'm a pensioner. Yes, I've been affected. And actually, I've never, ever in the whole of my life, and I've worked all my life, and I have brought up 3 children. I'm now a grandparent to 5 children. All of my children work. My husband works. I worked. And I've never been on benefits in my life. But I did hear one day how the pensions were classed as a benefit. I don't want the benefit if that's what it is. I don't want your winter fuel allowance if you're going to class that as a benefit. I've worked my way through life, all of my family have, and I'm still working now, actually. But
You're still
I
working?
do it for free. And do you know what? I worked 22 years as a newspaper editor without a holiday, 7 days a week, no holiday. I went away, but I was never off duty. I worked all that time. I'm better off, actually, as a pensioner.
Yeah.
But
Anita, they don't make them like you anymore, let me tell you, especially as a newspaper editor, which is no easy task. Local newspapers, what's the remit?
Yeah, it was a local community newspaper that I worked for on minimum wage. I think I maybe got paid 28 hours a week. I certainly worked between 60 and 80 hours a week. I wrote 60 to 80 newspaper stories every 2 weeks. And to class my pension as a benefit is an absolute disgrace. I paid tax all that time. I paid national insurance all that time. I've never had a benefit in my life. But do you know, Ben, countries, societies, they're judged on how they treat their most vulnerable.
Yep.
So what does that say about our country?
Finally, what would you like to say to Chris Worrell here? He says pensioners are just a bunch of rich, entitled people who don't deserve any help.
The rich one.
Well, I tell you what, Chris, I actually feel rich now because of the pension, because I get more pension than I do ever working for a wage, and I never once had 1 day's sick. I never had 1 day's holiday in all of that time. But do you know what you're talking about? The winter fuel allowance is given to families on low incomes. These are families that are working, Chris. They're working and they still can't afford to heat their homes in the winter. You're a disgrace.
Would you like to...
Disgrace.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what, Anita, when you've got 2 people working 60-hour weeks, struggling to afford nappies and you're getting taxed the way we are, you've got to talk about intergenerational fairness. We're not talking about the vulnerable. We're talking about the rich, 5-bedroom owning, wine-cellared, well-off, not getting the winter cruise allowance, and that is the main thing.
What is this about the cruise? It's a small percentage.
Okay. Protecting the vulnerable.
You go and live with Anita for a week.
The medical consequences are equally alarming. The government's own previous research suggested removing winter fuel payments could result in up to 4,000 additional deaths each winter. We've obtained exclusive access to updated modelling from the National Institute of Health Research that suggests this figure could be even higher if this winter proves especially harsh. But it's not just about statistics. It's about dignity. About whether we as a society honour our commitment to those who built the country we live in today. What makes this situation particularly controversial is the apparent disconnect between government rhetoric and action. In opposition, many current government ministers vehemently opposed similar measures. Now in power, they've implemented the very policy they once condemned as cruel and unconscionable. The question many are asking: what changed? The government defends the policy as necessary fiscal responsibility. The Treasury estimates savings of approximately £1.4 billion annually, significant, but representing less than 0.5% of the total welfare budget. Critics, however, point to other areas where savings could be found without targeting the elderly. The intergenerational fairness argument has also emerged, with some suggesting younger taxpayers shouldn't subsidize wealthy pensioners. But this perspective is sharply contested by pensioner advocacy groups, who point out that the vast majority of British pensioners live on modest fixed incomes, with the UK state pension among the least generous in the developed world. A pensioner advocate stated that the idea most pensioners are wealthy is simply false, noting that the average pensioner income is around £11,000 per year. According to the advocate, these aren't people taking winter cruises, they're people being forced to choose between heating and eating. The economics become even more complicated when considering the potential downstream costs of this policy. A health economist warned that if the policy resulted in even a 5% increase in elderly hospital admissions due to cold-related illness, the NHS costs could potentially exceed the savings. It was also noted that the increased social care needs and broader community health impacts had not been fully accounted for. Particularly controversial is the low uptake of pension credit, the benefit that now determines eligibility for winter fuel payments. Approximately 35% of eligible pensioners don't claim it, meaning hundreds of thousands of vulnerable elderly people who qualify for help won't receive it. This creates what critics call a perfect storm. Those most vulnerable often lack the knowledge, digital skills, or confidence to navigate the complex benefit system. And now, they'll face winter without crucial support. As winter approaches, the government faces a critical decision. Our Westminster sources indicate 3 options are now being actively considered. 1. Maintain the current policy despite growing opposition. 2. Raise the means testing threshold to include more pensioners. 3. Completely reverse course and restore universal winter fuel payments. The political stakes couldn't be higher. Polling exclusively commissioned for this program shows 72% of voters oppose the cuts, including 58% who strongly oppose them. Meanwhile, opposition parties are capitalizing on the government's vulnerability, with some smaller parties seeing significant polling boosts as traditional voters look elsewhere. The political strategists said that this had become the defining issue of the government's early days and that how it was handled could determine their fate. They added that U-turns were politically painful but sometimes necessary for survival. The Treasury reportedly faces intense pressure from both sides, needing to maintain fiscal credibility while addressing the growing political crisis. Our sources suggest a decision could come within days. But beyond the political calculations lies a fundamental question about our values as a society. Do we protect our most vulnerable citizens, especially those who contributed throughout their lives? Or do we accept that some elderly people will suffer, and yes, potentially die, in the name of fiscal restraint? This isn't just about winter fuel payments. It's about what kind of country we want to be. For the millions of pensioners now facing uncertainty, the clock is ticking. Winter is approaching. Energy companies are already announcing price increases, and the government appears paralyzed by indecision. This situation demands immediate attention and action. Here's what you can do. 1. Contact your MP immediately. We've put constituency contact details in the description below. 2. If you or someone you know might qualify for pension credit but hasn't claimed it, apply immediately. It's the gateway to winter fuel payments. 3. Share this video to raise awareness of this critical situation. 4. Follow our channel for daily updates as this crisis develops. The coming days could determine whether millions of elderly citizens face a winter of warmth and dignity, or cold and fear. We'll continue bringing you exclusive updates on this developing story. Britain's pensioners built this country. They paid their taxes, raised families, fought wars, staffed our hospitals, taught in our schools, and kept our factories running. They deserve better than to be treated as a line item on a budget spreadsheet. They deserve our respect, our support, and yes, they deserve to be warm this winter. This situation is still developing, and your voice matters. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you support the government's policy? Or do you believe winter fuel payments should be restored? Your engagement helps us bring attention to the issues that matter most. We'll be following this story closely in the coming days and will bring you exclusive updates as soon as they happen. Until then, look out for those who might be vulnerable in your community. Share this information with those who need it, and make your voice heard. If you haven't yet, hit that like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon, because we're here to expose the truth, hold power to account, and fight for ordinary people.